everyone. Thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's Morning Briefing. Lawmakers in Israel are outraged over a new resolution passed by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, which claims that Israel has no legal or historical claims anywhere in Jerusalem. The vote took place on Israel's Independence Day and passed with 22 countries in favor, 10 opposed, and 23 abstaining. Minutes after the resolution passed, President Reuven Rivlin addressed foreign ambassadors stationed in Israel, saying, quote, "It's time to put an end to the absurd. It is time to recognize Jerusalem as the official capital of the State of Israel. De facto, not just de jure. It is time to move all the official embassies here, to Jerusalem," end quote. Similarly, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leveled harsh criticism at UNESCO, saying, quote, "The theater of the absurd when it comes to Israel has to stop," end quote. Opposition leader Isaac Herzog from the Zionist Union Party said that the UNESCO resolution today against Israel is an anti-Semitic and anti-Israel disgrace that distorts the history of the Jewish people and its unshakable connection to the eternal capital Jerusalem. Minister of Culture and Sport Miri Regev went even further, recommending that the United Nations compound in the Armon HaNatziv neighborhood of Jerusalem be impounded, partially because it is suspected that the UN carried out a series of construction projects in the compound without proper building permits from Jerusalem City Hall. Elor Azaria, the IDF sergeant who was convicted of manslaughter in January, is today appealing his sentence. Azaria was sentenced to 18 months in prison, a demotion to private, and a suspended term of enlistment for having fatally shot a disarmed and neutralized Palestinian attacker last year. Azaria's defense is hoping to have the sentence thrown out and has requested to submit new evidence. Documentation of at least 15 other occasions where IDF soldiers shot at Palestinians and were not tried, for example. The prosecution, on the other hand, believes the sentence is too lenient and is thus looking to increase it to anywhere from 30 months to 5 years. Since Azaria's case is held in military courts, his options for who can issue his pardon are limited to Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot and President Reuven Rivlin. Eisenkot, who is the IDF Chief of Staff, has already criticized Azaria's actions, saying they go against the IDF's rules of engagement. So in a plea to the president, Azaria's father issued a direct letter to Rivlin saying that the army of the people shouldn't go against the people. Rivlin's office said it wouldn't respond until all other legal options were exhausted. Hamas is giving Israel 24 hours to accept the demands issued by Palestinian prisoners currently leading a hunger strike in Israeli prisons. The Gaza-based terror organization is threatening to add the names of 30 prisoners for each day that the strike continues to the list of detainees it would want released as part of any future prisoner swap with Israel. Hamas is currently holding the remains of 2 soldiers who were killed in the 2014 war with Gaza, along with 3 civilians who are believed to be trapped in the coastal enclave. In previous prisoner exchanges, Israel has released thousands of prisoners for the return of captured soldiers, civilians, or even the remains of fallen soldiers. The last such deal saw Israel release 1,027 Palestinian prisoners, many of which were incarcerated for violent offenses, just to secure the release of Gilad Shalit, who had been captured and imprisoned by Hamas for over 5 years. Close to 1,500 Palestinian prisoners are currently conducting a hunger strike in hopes of securing better access to payphones, higher education, and more frequent family visits. The strike is currently being led by Marwan Barghouti, a popular Palestinian leader who is currently serving 5 life terms for his role in several deadly attacks against Israeli civilians. Last Wednesday, Human Rights Watch condemned the illegal imprisonment of 2 Israeli citizens carried out by the Islamic terrorist group Hamas. New evidence seems to have appeared about the 2 Israelis who are believed to be mentally ill. Hamas is known to be holding Hisham al-Sayed and Avera Mengistu since April 2015 and September 2014, respectively. They believe the 2 men were soldiers. However, the Human Rights Watch organization claims that the Israeli army rejected Mengistu and released Sayed after only a few months of service. Hamas has never formally confirmed that they're holding the 2 men, but social media and photos online say otherwise. Quote, "No demand can justify disappearing and bartering over the lives of men, particularly those with serious mental health conditions," end quote, said Omar Shakir, a Human Rights Watch director for Israel and the Palestinian territories. He says they should either release the 2 men or present evidence of the crimes they allegedly committed. Hamas refuses to release more information about the men, demanding the release of a number of its members from prison instead. Hamas is waiting for future swap deals with Israeli defense forces, but the Israeli forces refuse to have any further negotiations regarding prisoners. One of the major problems plaguing Israeli society today is the high cost of living. something that kosher living is apparently having a large part of. But now, the Chief Rabbinate of Israel has proposed a plan to greatly reduce costs while keeping intact the current level of supervision, by installing cameras in every restaurant and food selling chain and standardizing kosher rules across the whole country. Currently, businesses are required to have an on-site kashrut supervisor called a mashgiach and abide by regional rules, but the businesses have to pay for it personally, and it ends up costing the economy roughly $1.1 billion annually, a cost carried on to consumers. Israeli Court Justice Noam Schulberg described the issue as being even worse, saying, quote, "Supervisors come to the restaurants they supervise for just a few minutes a week and demand payment off the books. Some of them lack the required knowledge of Jewish religious law or do their work casually. We have heard about rabbis who don't trust the kashrut they themselves are giving," end quote. Under the new proposed plan, the cameras would allow constant supervision while cutting out the middleman. Many businesses affected by the new legislation are critical of the move, however, saying it doesn't do enough to address the real problem of Israeli kashrut supervision, which is the rabbinate's monopoly on supervision. The monopoly is estimated to make up 15% of annual costs, or roughly 600 million shekels. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.